champion is a guy with that little bit extra, and maybe this is where I get my little bit extra from, by isolating myself. Like you put yourself in jail, and this is jail.
Well, the view from his jail is prettier than most, but nothing distracts him from his purpose. He trains with a rare single-mindedness, determined to build his body and mind. He may be a pleasant, almost gentle man after a fight, but beforehand he is difficult to be around and offers no apologies.
This is where you build your meanness of being in the training camp. There's a monster that come out of me on the inside. Now even more so, behind me being champion, and you're trying to take something that I have, that I worked for so long and hard. You're taking the food out of my baby's mouth, or my kid's mouth, or taking the roof away from our home. I'm like that. I'm scared about that, in a sense, so it makes me work harder.
Marvin Hagler has paid a price for his profession and championship. Back in Brockton, Massachusetts, there is a family growing up for long stretches without him. He was away training when his son Marvin Jr. was born. And he was away 3 weeks ago when his wife gave birth to Sharelle Monique.
While I was here, you know, I would pray that she come out of this okay, too, you know. We both wanted this baby so bad, you know. We both wanted a little girl. So when it come out, Sharelle Monique, wow, I jumped about, I don't know, 10 feet in the air, really, that it was a girl. And I just really couldn't train right. You know, I was too happy to train, if you know what I'm trying to say. You know, I probably couldn't hurt them guys the way that I wanted to down there tonight. My mind would be there instead of here.
The isolation seems to suit Marvin. He needs it to create the kind of emotion that drives him to explosive fury.
There they go. I can't let this guy here, Caveman Lee, get lucky in no way. I'm out there to rip his head off. That's what I'm out there to do. This is when I work. Even when I'm tired, I have to keep working, keep pushing. I tell myself I'm not tired. I'm in good shape, good shape. And this is what, when I go out there, it's like a performer. I practice and practice and practice right here. But fight night, everything's got to come out perfect.
Marvin Hagler, who admits he is still hungry, and I think you can find it in the point that he had to wait for his 50th professional fight to get his title opportunity. Since there is an agreement between the champion to defend against Thomas Hearns later, he figures that Emanuel Stewart and Thomas Hearns, who will be here today, may be doing some scouting, so he says he wants to end it just as soon as possible. Here's the young man who will issue the challenge. Caveman Lee, 25 years of age, a native son of Philadelphia. Moved to Detroit short time ago for more activity, and since then he has moved up in the rankings, winning 21 of 23 fights, 5th in the WBA, 10th in the WBC, weighed in at 159.5 this morning. So Caveman Lee has come to the ring now, and we're anticipating that the champion will be on his way shortly. New Jersey Athletic Commission rules are the fighters have to be gloved in the ring. The gloves were selected this morning after the weigh-in, agreed to by the fighters, the trainers, and the managers, but they were not allowed to take them away. The officials kept them, and now they are being put on the hands of Caveman Lee. Marvin Hagler is now ready to leave his dressing room and proceed to the arena here in the main ballroom at Bally's Park Place Casino and Hotel, where it's full, about 2,050 people. And for Caveman Lee, as I noted a moment ago, it's a time of relatively unexpected opportunity, but he is a young man with a thunderous punch, and you never know when that opportunity comes along. Thomas Hearns is sitting there, as you see, and he will have a sharp eye for what the champion Hagler does here this afternoon, because Thomas is looking for the opportunity to go against Hagler, and for all intents and purposes, that fight is supposedly set for later in the year. Of course, there is always the concern when you move from one weight division to another. Can you handle it in endurance, in stamina? Because oftentimes moving up, you're going to be giving away some weight and consequently some strength. Now, here comes your champion, Marvin Hagler. He is handled by the Petronelli brothers. Goody leading him there as they come down the hall and into the ring. And the chant starts to pick up now for the man they call around this part of the country marvelous Marvin Hagler. It's funny how things can happen for a man. Not so very long ago, Hagler was having trouble getting fights, but now he is right in the middle, at the prime, at the peak of his career, with real big money opportunities somewhere in his immediate future. You saw his record reflected there. One of the draws, of course, against Vito Antuofermo in his first title opportunity. And now the champion is entering the ring.
For this upcoming title bout. And the audience with us today, we have...
While the fighters are being gloved, let's catch up on some information about Caveman Lee.
Casino Hotel here in Atlantic City. The president,
Why is our copier smart?
Some of the other fighters and personalities at ringside being introduced in the moments prior to the World Middleweight Championship fight. Marvin Hagler defending against Caveman Lee. You're watching live on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and one of those in the ring right now is Mickey Goodwin, the young man who was supposed to have challenged for the middleweight championship against Hagler. It must be a relatively wistful moment for him. So while the procedure of gloving the fighters is go on, let's add to the story of Caveman Lee. As noted, moved from Philadelphia to Detroit to join Manny Stewart's organization. Obviously, it was a good move for him. He has run up a lot of KOs as the time has gone along. And even though he has been very successful with his 20 knockouts and his 21 wins, his opponents do not reflect genuinely a high marquee rating. But when a man comes in with that many knockouts, you know that he's dangerous. Let's have a look at him in action. Caveman Lee had little amateur boxing experience when he turned pro in 1976, but he did bring a natural punching power. Early days of his career, it was bang, bump, and gone. However, punching power alone was not enough, as he found out quickly against Frank Fletcher, a tough southpaw, who stopped him in decisive fashion in the 4th round. Lee rebounded in his next fight with a sensational win over Marcos Geraldo, who had lasted 10 tough rounds with both Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Lee took Geraldo out in only 55 seconds of the 1st round. And his 5th round knockout of John LeCicero, considered by many to be one of the most exciting fights of 1981, and kept him in the hunt for the title. So for this 25-year-old, it's really just a matter of right time, right place for him. There was a story published by a New York newspaper that Lee had been knocked out during a training session with Thomas Hearns in Detroit. We put the question to the parties involved, and they have all denied it. And for Emanuel Stewart, I think there is a considerable risk involved here. What if Lee should land a thunderbolt and win the championship from Hagler? There's no way that he's going to be fighting Thomas Hearns, and the Stewart deal with Bob Arum for the Hearns-Hagler fight will be gone, and with it a lot of money. It might even raise the question of conflict of interest. Well, this is how Emanuel Stewart responds to that.
If Caveman Lee knocks out Marvin Hagler, I would be the happiest man in the world, because Thomas already is in a position where he's guaranteed some type of a championship fight within the next year anyway, regardless of what divisions. As a matter of fact, he's got 3 different divisions that he could go into. So if Caveman wins, it wouldn't hamper his plans at all. I think that he would just concentrate a little bit more on the rematch with Leonard, or possibly a fight with Benitez, the other junior middleweight champion, which is David Moore.
Some comments of Emanuel Stewart. This fight scheduled for 15. Marvin Hagler, champion of both the WA and the WBC. A consolidation of those rules. 3 judges, and the referee will have no vote. The world middleweight champion standing there, Marvin Hagler, about to make his 4th defense of his title. He made 3 defenses in 1981 against Fulgencio Obel Mejias, knocked him out in 8 rounds in June. He defeated Vito Antuofermo in their rematch, knocked him out in 5. Mustafa Hamsho was knocked out in 11 in October of last year. And now the principals are about to be introduced for this afternoon's feature bout. Caveman Lee standing over the other way. You see, when you look at the sheet on this young man, his history is just one KO after another. But as I suggested to you, his opponents have not been of particular marquee rating. But he has taken on some tough people, in particular John LeCicero of Detroit last year. But here's the introduction of Caveman Lee. It was the win over Marcos Geraldo that jumped Lee up into the world rankings. And now here is the introduction of the champion, and it should get quite a roar from the crowd gathered here in this room. Some 2,000 of them.
53 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, with 44 knockouts. Ladies and gentlemen, from Boston, Mass, the undisputed middleweight champion, Marvin Hagler.
At the peak of his career right now, and hopeful that everything can be worked out. Here are the instructions from the referee, Larry Hazard. As the tail of the tape shows here, Hagler gives away an inch in reach. He gives away 1.5 pounds in weight. He gets 2 inches in reach, giving away 1 in height. The age is 29 for Hagler and 25 for Lee.
Do you have any questions?
So that formality is concluded. The judges are Paul Cavalieri, Joe Cortez, and Joe Santurpia. The referee, Hazard, and remember, Larry Hazard does not have a ballot. The judges will do all the balloting, and we're ready to go. The World Middleweight Championship on the line. Marvin Hagler defending against Caveman Lee, a consolidation of the rules between the WBA and the WBC. The champion is a left-hander. Lee can go both ways. And the indication to us from the Lee camp was that he would try to come strong and try at the very beginning to upset the tempo of the champion. And he just scored with a good left hook to the side of the head of Marvin Hagler here in the early going. Stiff right hand by Hagler. Hard left hand. Lee goes down. Face down on the canvas. It was a left and a right and a left. And Lee's in trouble. Hazard takes a look at him. Lee says he's all right. He doesn't look it. He's wobbly. He's in trouble. A right hand, a left hook to the side of the head. And he is in serious trouble. A left hook to the jaw. Lee can barely stand. Another right hand by Hagler. Back into the ropes he goes. Hagler pounding Caveman Lee here in the opening round. Hagler said he didn't want it to go very long, and it's not going to go very long. It is over. Lee sags against the ropes. He's out of it. Marvin Hagler has knocked him out with 1:53 to go in the first round. And a crowd of people come storming into the ring. It took 1 minute and 7 seconds for Marvin Hagler to knock out Caveman Lee, and he has lifted onto the shoulders of the Petronelli brothers, Goody and Pat. A devastating performance by a man who has been particularly effective since he got his first title opportunity. And since that time, he has just been a dynamite performer. After the draw with Anna Fermo, he came back to destroy Minter before the hostile crowd in London. And today, it was all Hagler. There was a left hook thrown by Caveman Lee that caught the champion on the side of the head in the first 15 seconds. And then the champion laced him with a hard right hand. Then he lunged across the ring, and he ripped him with a right and another left, and from that point on, Lee was never to shake it. He went down on his face, got up, but it was obvious that he was terribly unsteady. Larry Hazard let it go. Another angle of the first knockdown. You can see the lunge across the ring by the champion Hagler, and that left hook ripped to the chin, and for all intents and purposes, the fight was over right there. You see the hard right hand, and this is the finish right here. Here's the end of the fight coming up, because at this juncture, Lee did not really know where he was. Hagler had him stunned from the first knockdown, and at this point, it was a matter of when he was going to go, and under the fusillade of punches delivered by Marvin Hagler, Lee sags down against the ropes, and the referee, Larry Hazard, will step in to stop it before the man is injured. You can see that the will to fight In Caveman Lee's case, it's gone right here. He is looking for some place to hide, literally to regain his senses. But there is no place to go as Hagler pursued him across the ring and just continued to pummel him until finally he was down and the fight was stopped at 1:06 of the opening round.
The World Boxing Association presented to him by...
So it was a moment of despair, I'm sure, as you look at Caveman Lee as Hagler keeps his championship.
Another belt being presented also by...
The champion now is trying to make his way through the crowd of well-wishers and come down and join us here at ringside. He scarcely got warmed up. 1:06 of the first round, a devastating knockout of William Caveman Lee here in Atlantic City, and so he continues to look on toward the future, a future that is supposed to include Thomas Hearns and perhaps Benitez, and even more dramatically, perhaps Sugar Ray Leonard. That is the fight that I think much of the world would like to see happen. But there are some arrangements to be made with that one before it can be finalized. Mike Traynor has said that he will make no commitment until he is assured sufficient amounts of money have been committed to it. But it was truly a just destructive performance by Marvin Hagler. So here comes the champ over here to sit down and have a visit. Hi, champion, how are you? We have seen Marvin Hagler in many instances destroy people, but my goodness, this was a show and a half.
And destroy. I told him at the press conference, I'm mean and lean. I'm looking forward to Tommy Hearns as my next opponent. And then hopefully from there, maybe the Sugar Man to come out. That's what I'm looking for. Right now, I want to give him an official challenge after I finish with Hearns. I'm hoping that maybe even if it's a non-title fight, some way if WBC and WBA approve of it, and he can name his own price.
Marvin, you had said earlier that you thought Manny Stewart and Thomas Hearns might be doing a little scouting today. You didn't want to give him too much
I didn't want to give him
at.
nothing, you know it. And they were scouting. You know, I didn't believe too much about that Mickey Goodwin thing, but this was a better opponent for me to get ready for Hearns, a very serious contender, and I felt very good. First of all, I'd like to thank God for giving me the courage and the strength, and also to my new baby daughter.
Yeah, how about
Terrell
that?
Monique.
Oh, that's
Just
terrific.
for you, baby.
We had a picture of her and had a chance to see her. She's beautiful. Let's take a look at the first knockdown. Give you a chance to see it, Marvin.
I was very sharp. I felt very good. I trained very hard down the Provincetown end. I had a lot of potent punch on that. And once I had him hurt, I wasn't going to let him back off the hook.
He seemed to sting you a little bit, though, in the first 15 seconds.
Well, I like that. I wanted him to come to fight. I expected that. I had three top sparring partners down there with me that got me in the type of shape that I'm in and the quickness. And that was down in my Provincetown training camp.
Here's the finish of it now. We'll have a chance to see the fight stopped as a result of literally punishing the man.
I was glad that they stopped it right there because there was no way I was going to stop him. This man's in there to take something away from me. I was glad that I opened up very good here at the Atlantic City here because I've never been here before, and I just couldn't leave it to the judges.
Marvin, I know, and of course, we've been friends a long time. You waited a long time for your chance. You waited 50 fights to get a chance to fight for the title, and I know you are proud, and you're going to be a tough guy to take it away from.
I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. And I got a lot of work to do, and I'm hoping that I can fight all the champions out there to show them where I belong in the standards of the world, and then hopefully from there, maybe to retire or whatever. But I want to fight Benitez and the Durans and the Leonards and the Hearns just to show that my true ability, that I am a true champion.
Marvin Hagler, congratulations and best of luck to you.
Thank you. Hello, baby. All right, coming home.
Marvin Hagler retains his middleweight championship of the world, knocking out Caveman Lee 106 first round here in Atlantic City. Keith Jackson, now let's return to Frank Gifford in New York.